One night, I closed my eyes out of exhaustion and drifted into sleep. However, on this particular night, I felt something different. When I woke up, the air in my room felt strange, heavy even. My body was having difficulty moving. It was as if something was holding me tightly. In the darkness of my room, a peculiar silhouette appeared in the corner. As the silhouette became more defined, it began to resemble a woman's figure. Her eyes were dark and lifeless, and her facial expression bore a strange smile. I could sense her presence, but at the same time, I couldn't help but wonder if all of this was just a dream. Suddenly, the woman's figure approached and slowly made her way toward the bed. I couldn't make a sound. My entire body was immobilized. When the woman figure reached the edge of the bed, she suddenly reached out and touched my neck. Her icy cold hand burned my skin, but I still couldn't move. The woman figure parted her lips and whispered something in a strange, unintelligible language. I couldn't understand, but the words seemed to convey some meaning. My heart began to race because this situation was surreal and terrifying. Suddenly, the lights in my room flickered on. The woman figure disappeared, and I managed to let out a scream. At that moment, my body was freed, and I jumped out of bed. There was no one in the room, and everything appeared to be normal. I was drenched in sweat, and my heart was pounding rapidly. This experience was truly frightening and otherworldly. That night, the boundaries between dream and reality seemed completely blurred. Perhaps that woman figure was indeed a ghost from the past and had tried to communicate with me that night. Regardless, that dreadful experience still haunts my mind. After that night, I began to have difficulty sleeping, going to bed each night with the fear that I would relive that experience. A few years ago, my friends and I decided to embark on an exciting overseas journey. Our destination was a distant Asian country. After going through visa procedures, booking tickets, and packing our bags, we finally took off on the plane. After a few hours of waiting at the airport, we boarded our flight. Following a long journey, we arrived at our destination. The city was impressive, captivating us with its exotic markets, historical temples, and traditional architecture. The first few days of our trip went smoothly. However, one evening, strange events began to unfold at the hotel where we were staying for the night. After settling into our rooms, we started hearing peculiar noises coming from one of our friends' rooms. Initially, we thought it might be the sound of the elevator located right next to the room. However, that night as I was drifting off to sleep, I noticed something strange under my bed. I listened to the room in silence for a while and felt a faint, eerie vibration coming from beneath the bed. Gathering my courage, I bent down and found an old, dusty notebook hidden there. The pages of the notebook were open, filled with bizarre symbols and unintelligible writings. As I flipped through the pages, I sensed a disturbing atmosphere. I took a deep breath and closed the notebook. When I showed it to my friends, I saw that they too felt a chill. Sleeping in our room that night was difficult. We had strange images and symbols in our dreams. When we woke up in the morning, the room still had an unsettling ambience. My friends and I decided to go to the hotel reception to inquire about the history of the room where we found the notebook. The hotel staff explained that the room had a connection to events that had happened years ago involving a local family. After a tragic incident, the room had become unpopular among guests. They also mentioned that the notebook belonged to a member of that family. We decided to do further research and consulted a local folk historian who shared the family's story. The tale was sad and eerie. The trauma the family had experienced and the mysterious deaths had triggered some paranormal events in the room. Throughout our journey, we felt the influence of that strange notebook and room, even affecting our dreams. However, this chilling experience was not limited to the history and cultural aspects of a foreign country. It served as a real testament to how history and local beliefs can affect people's moods and experiences. One evening, after a long day at work, I decided to have dinner at a restaurant to unwind. The restaurant was quite elegant and upscale, so I was hoping for a pleasant dining experience. However, what happened that night would completely change my expectations. When I entered the restaurant, there was a pleasant atmosphere. The waiter greeted me with a smile and led me to a table. After placing my dinner order, the waiter began to exhibit some strange behavior. First, as he placed the breadbasket on my table, he suddenly trembled and quickly averted his gaze. However, I didn't pay much attention to this minor incident and started waiting for my meal. When the food arrived, the waiter once again started displaying odd behavior. As he handed over the plates, he flinched suddenly and swiftly placed them on the table before hastily retreating. This time, I was becoming increasingly uncomfortable with the situation, but I tried to focus on enjoying my meal. After finishing my meal, I got up to go to the restroom. However, what I saw in the restroom was truly chilling. The waiter was inside the restroom, and he was behaving in a really eerie manner in front of the mirror. He wasn't looking at his reflection, and he was making strange, harsh sounds. When he noticed my presence, we locked eyes, and he suddenly stopped. There was a momentary blankness and peculiarity in his eyes. I hurriedly left and returned to my table. At this point, I was thoroughly unsettled. I settled my bill and quickly left the restaurant. The waiter's behavior and the unsettling scene in the restroom were still vivid in my mind, even when I got home that night. After that day, I never set foot in that restaurant again. This horrifying experience taught me a lesson not only about the taste of the dinner, but also about how unpredictable human behavior can be.